Hello and welcome to this special broadcast for the launch of the 2023 Welch LLP Business Growth Survey. I'm Michael Curran from the Ottawa Business Journal. The Welch Business Growth Survey is the definitive annual survey of local business leaders. It provides deep insight into Ottawa's regional economy and measures things like hiring intentions, business confidence, revenue and income growth projections, and opinions on topics like diversity, equity, and inclusion. This spring, just shy of 700 business people took the survey. Suffice it to say, the Welch LLP Business Growth Survey is a valuable and insightful tool for people who want to understand what's happening in the regional economy. This year's theme is the road ahead, moving forward in uncertain times. It's a theme that emerged from the report's findings, and it captures, I think, the sentiments of many local business leaders. Okay, here's what you can expect in this special podcast. We will hear from our title sponsor, Welch LLP, on their perspective on the 2023 research findings. We will hear from several partners involved in the 2023 project. And the main guest will be Dr. David Coletto, the chair and CEO of Abacus Data. Abacus Data conducted the research this year, as they have since 2015. So if you want an in-depth review of the 2023 survey results, you've come to the right place. Let's meet our first guest. When the Business Growth Survey was founded way back in 2015, it was Welch LLP that stepped forward to support and help found this research project. Joining us now from Welch LLP is one of its partners. Here is Chris Meyers. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks a lot for having me, Michael. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is good. So start with a big question. Why do you think this survey is important? We've done it since 2015. We've researched quite literally at this point thousands of people. Chris, why do you think this matters?
I think it's important for different reasons than maybe when we first started it. I think, my understanding was back then it was to fill a gap. We didn't have a product like this at that time. But it's interesting for me when I look at the results to see years of data kind of laid out side by side and to see kind of the evolution of thinking and the perspectives and level of confidence and opinions of business owners evolve over the years, right? And so it's a useful tool, I think, not only in terms of kind of the road ahead, but also sort of how we've evolved over time and some of the challenges in particular that we've gone through over the past few years. You can see the movement and fluctuation in terms of the business confidence index over the past few years as we've struggled with a number of different challenges here in Ottawa.
We certainly would have never predicted way back in 2015 there'd be a pandemic that would completely disrupt the global, regional, national economies and that type of stuff. So you're quite correct, Chris. I agree that it's the fluctuation and the more years of data we have, it's quite interesting to see. And we're going to hear from David Coletto, of course, and he's going to have dozens of slides of results, Chris. So we don't need you to give us your take on the entire survey, but maybe share one observation on what you spotted in the 2023 findings.
Well, I used the term in the forward, to the survey results that I think will be released, and it's confounding. It's you have a bit of a mixed result in my view, where you have continued. I would say success. Business is strong. I think small business and medium-sized businesses across the organization are still seeing positive, or across the city, are still seeing positive results. But there is this perception that the next year is going to be challenging, more challenging than the year before. And, it's just kind of juxtaposing the positive and the negative and the cautious against each other, I think, for me, is the most kind of salient message that comes out of the survey results. And I think it's helpful for businesses to see that, right? So to kind of position themselves against their peers, but also to kind of acknowledge the fact that, yes, we're all kind of experiencing these uncertain times together, with inflation and interest rates and employment challenges across the region, nationally and globally. And how they're contributing to the situation. So, it's that, how do you deal with that kind of uncertainty and inconsistency, I think, in the environment where, we seem to be doing well, but on the horizon, there's something. And when is it coming? It's like waiting for Godot. It's kind of like we're almost 18 months in here, and when is this recession going to hit, and what will it look like? So that's what I get out of it. It's a mixed bag for me, and I suspect, well, I know David Coletto will speak a lot more eloquently than I can on it from a numbers perspective, but for me, that's the most important point that I get out of it.
Again, I tend to agree. It's that living in a world of uncertainty, and I think that's what we're all living through this together. And to some degree, the data in this survey can at least give us comfort that we're not alone in that feeling. Chris, I want to thank you and all of your colleagues at Welch for their support. Once again, thank you, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jim McConnery of Welch LLP. Businesses in Ottawa continue to adapt and evolve. Some businesses are flourishing. Other parts of the economy have suffered greatly. In both cases, local business leaders have demonstrated their resilience. For some, resilience means work from home. For others, connecting with clients virtually or doing things differently. In a constantly changing environment, how are business owners to make heads or tails of the situation? That is the purpose of the report we share today. It is the definitive survey of local business leaders that determines business confidence. It measures who is hiring, trends in real estate, and changes in how we work. Let us take you inside the results of the survey and share valuable insight to determine what an economic recovery will look like and what that will mean for you and your business.
Hi everyone, my name is Marc Chénier, Executive Director of le Regroupement des gens d'affaires de la Capitale Nationale, the RGA. We are a French economic force in a better regional development. Basically, the RGA promotes and supports success of Francophone and Francophile businesses in the National Capital Region. Uncertainty in terms of economics is always negative, but we see it differently. It's a period where we should take every opportunities to evolve, to change for the better. And I think the National Capital Region, through our members, our mission at RGA is to offer the possibility to be able to evolve, look at things positively, and open ourselves to global markets. Basically, the National Capital Region has a lot to offer, and RGA is there to promote, help, and support our members and our partners.
Hi, I'm Jessica Arsenault from TAG HR. TAG HR is a staffing agency with over 30 years of experience connecting top talent with leading employers across Canada. We provide guidance to both public and private sector organizations on how they can best navigate the evolving hiring market, and we proactively recruit to find our clients the skill sets that their teams need. The theme of the 2023 report is moving forward in uncertain times. One of the biggest areas that we've observed uncertainty is in the market around hiring. Employers are unsure of how to attract the talent they need, maybe don't have the resources, and as a result, they've begun to reduce their plans to hire. Our clients are combating this uncertainty by embracing flexibility. The businesses that are thriving from a hiring perspective are offering flexible work hours, remote options, and tailored incentives to help hire and retain talent. This is truly an opportunity for businesses to listen to what job seekers want and respond to these market changes in order to see higher retention levels and greater business success.
Hello, my name is Tim Thomas. I'm a partner at the law firm of Purdy Robertson Hill McDougall. We're a full-service law firm providing legal services primarily to small, medium, and large Ottawa-based businesses. We have served the Ottawa community for more than 50 years. Following the pandemic, our clients have shown great resilience. They've had to adapt their workplaces to such things as hybrid work models, which involve many legal issues in the areas of real estate, employment law, leasing, and finance. We are there to support them in adjusting to the post-pandemic economic uncertainty.
The presenting sponsor for 2023 is the Commissionaires Ottawa. If you've attended a Meyers breakfast or a past launch of the Business Growth Survey, our guest is familiar to you. Here is the CEO of the Commissionaires Ottawa. Please welcome Paul Guindon. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Michael. How are you doing?
Good. You're looking healthy. You got a nice glow to you on your face there.
Yeah, a bit of a suntan. I was in Texas for a few
Well,
days.
there you go. We're happy to have you back in the Ottawa. So listen, Paul, we've done these interviews a few times, and suffice it to say, it's been a remarkable few years for the commissionaires. We've talked about acquisitions and technology innovations, fingerprinting, pre-employment checks, investigations, cybersecurity. But today, Paul, we're here to talk about golf. Tell us how the commissionaires and golf go together.
Well, it goes well together. It's a good recipe. Now, we've been fortunate enough to be able to partner with PGA Tour Canada, or PGA Canada Tour. And we've done this to support a very worthy cause of ours, which is to look after veterans of both the RCMP and the military, to look after them in many ways, in all the ways that we can afford. We can help them to reintegrate society properly, to help them, to get medical attention if and when needed. So this event is all about an organization within the Department of National Defense called Soldier On, and it's been around for several years. Such a tournament was here about 10 years or so ago, and then it skipped town. And when approached, in fact, there were more than just one fold. I mean, fulfilling our social mandate better, but also to be able to be a little help to the local economy here, which is, reading the news and listening to podcasts is suffering somewhat. So we want to do our part as well.
Yeah. And tell us just quickly about the event. So when's it coming up? Where's it taking place?
Yeah, it's coming up the week of 17th and 23rd of July at Eagle Creek Golf Course. And there's about 150 or so golfer aspiring to be part of the PGA Tour. So if we relate this to hockey, is the American Hockey League, the farm team feeding up to PGA. And most of the Canadian on the tour have gone through this program. So Connors and you name it. So it's very, very high level golf, much higher level than I can even dream about.
Maybe in retirement, Paul, who knows? But
listen, boy, it's too late for me.
Oh, it's too late. Okay, well, it's too late for me too, by the way. Golf and retirement,
yeah.
I don't know.
It's going to be a week full of activities.
Okay.
There's some chosen few will have the opportunity to play with a pro on the Wednesday and on the Monday afternoon. I'm told that the course looks great, and they're ecstatic to see us coming.
That's awesome. Eagle Creek's one of my favorite courses. I'm not that much of a golfer, but it is my favorite course.
Yeah,
and congratulations. So I picked up that it's part of your social enterprise to support veterans, and of course, you're helping provide a little spark to the local tourism community. Of course, we're here today, Paul, for the launch of the 2023 Welch LLP Business Growth Survey. This is something we've done since 2015. We surveyed almost 700 people this year, Paul. But I just want to get your sense. You are Commissionaires Ottawa is a big employer in this city. So I want to get your take on what's happening locally.
Well, one of our most critical issue is labor. And we're not the only one. We are not the only company within the private security industry. Everybody in that industry is suffering, but also across the board. I mean, you hear stories everywhere, from airline pilots to doctors to nurses to truck drivers to plumber, carpenter, you name it. Labor shortage has become critical, and that is our biggest hurdle to growth, really.
Well, thank you, Paul. I think that you're right in that observation. I want to thank you for being part of the 2023 research project here. And I guess I'll see you on the links, right, Paul?
You bet.
Okay.
Yeah, sharpen your game, buddy.
Okay, see you soon, Paul. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And now, what you've all been waiting for, here is David Coletto with the findings of the 2023 Welch LLP Business Survey Report.
Well, thanks, Michael. And it's great to be back here with you again for another year of looking at how Ottawa businesses are feeling. This is, an interesting time for us to be exploring how the business community in Ottawa is feeling about its prospects, the past year and the year going forward. And I'm really proud to be part of this project and my team at Abacus for doing this research with the Ottawa's Business Journal, the Ottawa Board of Trade, and obviously our title sponsor, Welch, who has been such a good partner in all of this. I want to start by just talking a little bit about the context, right? Obviously, thankfully, the pandemic is now clearly in the rearview mirror, but the impact of it and its lasting legacy on how businesses are coping with the broader economic environment, with the way that consumers and businesses that they might interact with and might have as customers or clients are responding to these forces. Back in 2021, The Economist magazine came out with this title story describing the shortage economy. And this has been really important in my thinking about the things that businesses are dealing with as we've gone from a pandemic to shortages in so many parts of the economy. And what is the shortage economy? Well, it includes certainly supply chain disruptions. We've seen rising prices and interest rates. There's a real sense of a shortage of just energy that people have. People still report high levels of burnout, not feeling motivated to go out and work and be productive, right? We've seen labor shortages that continue to persist, even though they're starting to come down. The number of job vacancies in Canada is declining, but they're still at a historic level. And then finally, I think as customers, whether you're dealing with consumers, whether it's a B2B kind of environment, there's a real appreciation and a newfound appreciation for the sense that time is valuable. So in this context, we explored how businesses in the city of Ottawa are responding and how business leaders are thinking about where things are today and their prospects for the future. Earlier this year, we interviewed over 500 Ottawa business leaders. This is part of that Ottawa Business Growth Survey that we've been doing for many years now. And the real benefit of this study is we have historic data. And so I'm going to share with you today the findings of this most recent survey that we did in February and March, and give you an insight into, I think, how businesses are feeling today. And this all comes, and the real focus of our work is on what we call the Business Confidence Index. And it's built around a number of indicators that, again, we've been tracking over time that give us a sense of how businesses are dealing with different issues, where there perhaps is some positive trends and where there's some areas for friction. So let me get into this. The first question is around sales and revenue. And you can see here, if you go all the way back to 2015, we've seen a consistent number, more than half of businesses saying their sales and revenue have increased year over year. We saw in 2020 and 2021 a significant drop, but very quickly in 2022 and now into 2023, these numbers have normalized back to where we see. So the good news is, there is a very small minority of businesses in the community that are reporting that their sales are decreasing. And I think a healthy number continue to report now that their sales are increasing. So that's a good sign of one good sign that we see. Now, increased revenue doesn't mean anything if you aren't making a profit. And so net income is also something that we've been tracking and so we ask business leaders, has your income increased, decreased, stayed about the same from over the past year? And you can see we've seen a slight decline from 2022, but still we're more or less back to where we were pre-pandemic, where we've got close to half of businesses saying that their net income has increased or is higher than it was the previous year. And that's a real shift you can see again from the 2020 and 2021 numbers. So again, good numbers on the sort of balance on the profit and loss side. Where we're starting, though, to see some areas of difficulty are around future market expectations. So we ask people over the next year, do you expect the market for your business sector to improve, stay about the same, worsen? And again, fairly consistent numbers if you look as in terms of an average since 2015, but we've seen a drop of 14 points in those saying that they expect that market to improve. And notably, and the highest it's been since 2020, we've got 1 in 5 business leaders saying they actually expect that market to worsen. So this is starting to give us some insight into those clouds that are forming in the broader economic environment that has a sizable number of business leaders in the community quite concerned about what's to come, despite having a fairly good previous fiscal year. Now that extends into the willingness of businesses to hire. Again, we track whether businesses plan to recruit more employees, lay off or reduce their workforce, or keep that workforce about the same. And given what we know, and I'll come to in a moment, is continued concern about recruiting people into their businesses, we have seen a drop. So we're more or less back to the normal. 2022 was an exceptional year where we had 6 in 10 businesses saying they plan to recruit new employees. That's come back down to more or less where the average has been, and certainly much higher than 2020, which was that obvious pandemic year that really was the exception to so much that we're seeing. So more businesses plan to hire more than reduce their workforce, but more than last year anyways are in a wait and see kind of mode, waiting to see what that market is going to look like in the future, particularly since so many are expecting it to get challenging going forward. Now, one area where we've seen a substantial change, and this is understandable given where interest rates are today and the influence that inflation has had on those rates, is 1 in 3 businesses today say it's harder to access credit than it was a year ago. And if you look, this is a clear exception and a difference from what we've measured in the past. So for almost the entirety of us tracking this question, we had about 12 to 17% of businesses saying it's harder than it used to be. Now we're up to a third, and that's having a broader impact on specific sectors, including real estate and other sectors where interest rates sensitivities are particularly acute. Finally, we ask people, compared to a year ago, would you say that your confidence in the local economy has increased, decreased, or stayed about the same? Here we see a lot more variability year to year. You can see that since 2015, actually only a minority of businesses have said, oh, my confidence in the local economy is getting better. We certainly saw that accelerate from 2020 to 2022. But in the last year, we've seen a decline again. And in fact, 41% of businesses report that their confidence in the local economy has declined, which is reflective again of those macroeconomic forces that I think have businesses perhaps in a much more defensive position, where even a year ago when we did this survey, I think we saw a much more offensive, bullish business community who were finally feeling that we were out of the pandemic. Well, now that those economic impacts are starting to be felt. So this all points to a very different kind of environment today. So in summary, in terms of all of these metrics, we see declining confidence in the local economy. Market expectations have softened. Credit is harder to access for many more businesses than we've seen since 2015. Despite this, hiring still is strong, but those labor shortages remain. We know that, for example, across the country, there's approximately 700,000 job vacancies, which is still historically high, but down from almost 1 million a few quarters ago. So that's the overall picture. Now, what we do is we take all of these metrics and we create an index. And that index allows us to see the overall sense of confidence that businesses are having. And what we find this year is that confidence overall is down. Now, a score above 100 is generally positive. So, we're still in the positive territory, but we're nowhere near where we were last year. And we're not close to where we were for most of the period prior to the pandemic. And again, the value of this kind of data and why we're tracking it is reflective in this big drop that we saw in 2020 and the recovery in confidence that we saw over the next 2 years. Well, we've kind of taken a step back. And when we look at specific sectors, and we were able to look at some sectors that we had larger sample sizes of respondents in, 3 in particular have seen pretty substantial drops in business confidence. So the consulting sector, this would be like professional services like accounting, government relations, management consultants. We've seen a 25-point drop in their aggregate business confidence. Technology, which for most of our time studying this have been really the most optimistic, the most growth oriented. They've taken a step back, still positive, but 15 points lower than it was last year. And then in retail, we continue to see a level of softness there at 100, so about neutral, but down 10 points from last year. So those challenges that retail has faced throughout the pandemic are continuing today, in particular as consumers pull back their spending in response to higher prices and their household budgets being crunched and squeezed by interest rates. Now, one sector is reporting, higher confidence. That's hospitality. They've had a really difficult number of years, but demand for hospitality, travel, experiences, we know has remained quite strong, and in fact is kind of a contrast and a counterpoint to the decline in consumer spending in other areas. The CEO of American Express coined the term split brain revenge spending, right? So after a traumatic experience, a lot of consumers will go and revenge spend. They'll spend more money on luxury or premium kind of goods or experiences. But at the same time, that split brain part of it is we've also seen a decline in, for example, spending at groceries and other retail kind of environments. So we're trying to find savings in some areas, cutting back on subscriptions, cutting back on perhaps national brands and shifting to a say no-name brand. But at the same time, we're seeing airplanes full and people going on vacations and people buying some, splurging a little bit. And so we've seen this sort of split in consumer behavior that is quite unique to the circumstances that we have today. So that's the overall picture. Some good news, some bad news, but the overall sense is today business confidence is lower than it was last year across the city of Ottawa. Now, this survey also explored some other areas, right? We know that many businesses are still growing, which is good news. They're hiring more people. They're looking to expand. And so we asked respondents, what are you planning to do over the next 12 months? And we see a range of responses. So more than half of businesses are looking for strategic partnerships to help their growth. They're looking to introduce a new product or service. So lots of innovation happening. Innovation often happens in times like this. I always like to use the example of the last time we had this period of really high inflation. I wasn't even born in the late 70s, but you had Hamburger Helper, entering the market as a food product to help people make their beef go longer because the price of beef and other things went high so much. A third of businesses are looking to break into a new market. And then you've got smaller numbers, looking to seek debt or equity financing, expanding their premises or facilities, which is still happening for some, but far fewer given obviously the challenges still in getting people back into a workplace for those that are office-based. And then finally, 1 in 10 are actually looking to grow by acquiring a new company. So lots of activity still, and business leaders, looking at this market, looking at the opportunities and the threats, and trying to figure out how do they navigate it. But lots of opportunity in that marketplace. Now, when we ask people what are the biggest barriers to growth, and we give them a long list, and these are the top 5. There continues to be labor shortage challenges, so mismatches between the talent pool and the business needs. The availability of skilled tradespeople really are close to the top. Other things like government red tape, availability of funding or financing has kind of dried up. And so 1 in 5 businesses are pointing to that. And then not surprisingly, given inflation, cost of inputs is a source of friction and a barrier to growth for another 1 in 5 businesses. Now, further down on this list, if you go anything below 20%, you start to see a lot of mixed barriers, right? So for others, government regulations is a source of friction, a limited customer base, too much competition. The lack of marketing of Ottawa globally is a concern for almost 1 in 10 respondents. Affordable real estate, the housing market has kind of corrected, but we're starting to see prices rise again. Rent's very expensive. So really competing, Ottawa used to be very competitive from a housing perspective. That's no longer the case. And so attracting people to the city in a hot housing market where rent and market housing is expensive is a real challenge. And then, you can see down at the bottom of the list what's less concerning to people: cybersecurity, lack of mentors, crime and community safety, public transit. So the overall picture here remains, the labor market plus those macroeconomic conditions are being signaled out as barriers to growth for so many businesses across the country. Across the city. Now, the survey also explored a few other areas. We looked at, for example, the importance of workplace diversity, and we wanted to understand whether businesses are identified the benefits and believe that, for example, diversity and inclusion or sustainability and climate change are important and critical to their future success. And it's very clear that the clear majority of businesses believe that, implementing and identifying and focusing on diversity and inclusion is critical to their business success. Only, 14% say they haven't given any thought to this. Now, when it comes to sustainability and climate change, less so. Not all businesses in the community would necessarily look through that lens, but that's changing as well. And we see 1 in 3 say, that's critical to the success of my business. Only about 1 in 4 say they haven't really thought much about sustainability and climate change. We also explored bilingualism and its importance in certainly in our market, but in terms of competition around the globe. And we've been tracking this. Now, today in this survey, it's slightly lower than it was in terms of how important employers believe that employee bilingualism is important. As an employer myself, I'm constantly looking for bilingual team members. I can say, finally, we found one who's going to join our team shortly. And we're really excited about that because it allows us to imagine, growing our business in Quebec, where we've been limited. I think, not all businesses see that opportunity, but certainly at least 2 in 3 say it's at least somewhat important, continuing to have bilingual employees in the market that's Ottawa and being so close to the Quebec market to allow businesses to grow both over the river and deeper in towards Montreal and Quebec City. Now, I alluded to earlier some of the challenges that businesses continue to face with the labor force and the labor market in particular. And so in this survey, we asked a number of questions about this, but it really focused more on how are you verifying or checking that members of your prospective members of your team are you're confident about them. And so we looked at the rate in which employers are doing things like reference checks or social media scans or employee verifications. And we see widespread use of these tools and some change from year to year. But certainly the vast majority of businesses continue to do reference checks. Half of them are going on social media to see, to get a sense of people and maybe what they're doing or what they've said in the past. Employment and verifications remain something that half of businesses are doing, but we're starting to see, an increase in credential verifications, large numbers, even still requiring fingerprint-based criminal record checks. So as information becomes harder to verify, I think in the world of AI, this is going to become more important. That how we think about, the background screening and verifying who it is we're looking to recruit to our teams remains something that so many businesses in our community are focused on, are using many different tools to be certain of who that person is and their suitability to join their team. So it was a much shorter survey this year. If you completed it, appreciate the time you took, and we know your time is very valuable. And to sum up, I think, as I said at the outset, the broader economic environment, we've been talking about a recession, a coming recession now, it seems like for a really long time. And so in the way that consumers have this split brain, it does kind of feel that our economy remains almost split, right? Between still a fairly hot labor market and at the same time, the pressures of rising interest rates and inflation that while looks like it's hopefully peaked and now reverting, remain challenging to many businesses. And so the end is a hot labor market is not necessarily a great thing. It's good for employees. It's not great for employers. Is we've seen a decline in business confidence overall. We're not at a level anywhere near what we saw in 2020. We're still above water. We're still generally positive. But these are indicators that, we can't take growth and business success for granted, and that many businesses are expecting a more difficult market. They continue to be worried about recruiting people into their teams. And I suspect we aren't going to see the kind of growth that we've seen at least last year and the year before as we came out of the pandemic, which signals to me that we may be actually headed into recession, because we know that the leading indicator of a recession is people believing one is going to be coming, and that changes the behavior and choices they make in running their business and the decisions they make as to whether expand or to put up the hatches and defend against these forces going forward. So it's been a pleasure again to share these results. I think it's a really valuable exercise, and I look forward to being back here next year with you to share as well. Michael, back to you.
And there you have it, the findings of the 2023 Welch LLP Business Growth Survey. Thank you so much, David, for that great presentation. Listen, before we wrap up, I really want to thank a few people who have worked on this project for months and months and months. At Ottawa Business Journal, thank you to Anne Howland, Victoria Stewart, Wendy Bailey, Tanya Connolly Holmes. At the Board of Trade, big thanks to Su-Ling Ching and Melissa Howell. At Welch, a special thank you to Connie Hollitz, who works behind the scenes so hard in this. Also, Bruce Ragenald. Thank you to our supporting sponsors, the Sprott School of Business, Pearlie Robertson Hill and McDougall LLP, RBC, Le Regroupement d'Agents d'Affaires, and also Tag HR. A reminder to access the digital report, please visit Ottawa Business Survey Report. Again, that's Ottawa Business Survey Report. Je tiens à mentionner que ce report est également disponible en français. Yes, the report's available in French again this year, thanks to our friends at the RGA. Please visit the same URL to find the French report. On behalf of OBJ, the Ottawa Board of Trade, and all of our sponsors, thank you for tuning in. Let's keep moving forward in these uncertain times. Bye-bye.